Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight on our news.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell slammed Sarkis Izmirlian over his recent comments about Baha Mar.
Workers in the Ministry of Education arraigned in court. Plus,
the Commissioner of Police details the anti-corruption unit.
DNA's deputy leader says despite the party's crushing defeat on May 10th, the party will still be around in 2022. The story coming up.
Is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina McNeil. Topping news tonight, on the heels of former Baha Mar developer Sarkis Izmirlian's call for the Minis administration to stop the completion of the sale of Baha Mar, the resort's president, Graham Davis, issued a statement this afternoon asserting he is extremely pleased with the government's commitment to fully support Chow Tai Fook Enterprises' continued efforts in the completion and successful operations for the future of Baha Mar. Davis said the Chang family and CTFE are recognized throughout the world as visionary business leaders, and they are extremely excited about the next phases of Baha Mar's continued growth. He added, "This is a very exciting time for both Baha Mar and the Bahamas. We are rapidly adding to our complement of more than 2,000 Bahamian employees and are on track to meet our goal of employing more than 5,000 associates at the completion of the phased opening in 2018. Furthermore, Davis says once they have reached stabilized business levels and are fully operational, Baha Mar anticipates creating over 7,500 direct jobs for Bahamians, which will contribute to more than $65 million in direct taxation annually and over $100 million annually in combined tax revenues to the Bahamas." Well, leader of opposition business in the Senate, Fred Mitchell, slamming Sarkis Izmirlian over his call for the Minis administration to stop the completion of the sale of Baha Mar. Mitchell says the former Baha Mar developer is acting like a spoil sport and says he hopes the government ignores Izmirlian's request. Jasmine Brown reports.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell slammed Sarkis Izmirlian over his recent comments about Baha Mar.
This is now spoil sport behavior. If he had the resources to in fact complete the development, it would have been done.
Over the weekend, Izmirlian called on the government to place a moratorium on the completion of the sale of Baha Mar so the toxicity of these arrangements to our country can be assessed. But Mitchell insists Izmirlian isn't entitled to anything and has no place trying to intervene with his progress.
What I saw was typical of this developer who thinks that he's entitled to something, which he's not in my view, and also is giving gratuitous advice to the government, which is simply none of his business.
The statement came 5 days after Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis tabled the unsealed heads of terms in the House of Assembly. The government entered the agreement with China Exim Bank and China Construction America last August to get the resort completed and opened. The deal was sealed by the Supreme Court, a move that was highly criticized. Under the agreement, the Christie administration agreed to issue up to 1,200 work permits, as well as waive stamp duty and value-added tax on the transfer of assets from the Baha Mar Limited Group to Perfect Luck Assets Limited. The former Baha Mar developer says those unsealed documents confirm the nation's fears that the previous administration had engaged in the wholesale giveaway of hundreds of millions of dollars in tax waivers and concessions. Mitchell says the government needs to ignore Izmirlian's plea.
When I was Minister of Immigration, thought that his interventions in the Bahamas were inappropriate. I think that this particular one is inappropriate, and I would hope that the government would simply ignore it.
Mitchell says Izmirlian has no place in the future of the mega resort.
In my view, and I'm not an attorney on these matters, there's nothing for the government to do. The fact is the matter has advanced to the point where people are in possession, and it's a normal commercial transaction. The development seems to be going well.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
In other news, 2 employees of the Ministry of Education appeared before the magistrate's court today, charged with multiple counts related to conspiracy to commit fraud. 59-year-old Paulette Wilson of Coral Harbor and 60-year-old Andrew Bridgewater of Glendale Subdivision appeared before Magistrate Samuel McKinney in Court Number 1. Wilson, who is employed by the Ministry of Education as a chief clerk, was teary-eyed as she waited to hear her charges. The pair was charged with conspiracy to commit fraud by false pretenses and conspiracy to commit falsification of accounts sometime between October 9, 2015 and March 18, 2016. Bridgewater pled guilty to the first charge, while the pair pled not guilty to the others. The pair was further charged with fraud by false pretenses. Police say the pair obtained $6,657.12 in salaries by means of false pretenses. Wilson pled not guilty, while Bridgewater entered a guilty plea. Wilson faced a 4th count related to falsification of accounts. It is alleged that Wilson altered the overtime records of Andrew Bridgewater, purporting to show that between the dates in question, Bridgewater was entitled to nearly $7,000 in overtime pay. Wilson also pled not guilty to this charge. The case will proceed by way of a voluntary bill of indictment due to the statute of limitations on the charges. The pair was denied bail but can apply for bail in the Supreme Court. Both employees were remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until they return to court for the presentation of the VBI on August 10th. And following an announcement by Minister of National Security Marvin Dames last week that a corruption unit within the Royal Bahamas Police Force was being considered, Police Commissioner Ellison Greenslade today revealing the unit is now fully operational. Giorgio Bain has that story.
11 files are now in possession of the anti-corruption unit, according to Commissioner of Police Ellison Greenslade, who said that charges could range from stealing, misappropriation of funds, and corruption.
We did develop a unit to look at corruption issues. The unit is referred to as the Anti-Corruption Branch. It is located on Nassau Street, in facilities just north of Meeting Street. The branch is headed by Assistant Commissioner Paul Roll, who is well known to the Bahamian public. Very capable young man. I've given him an attorney at law, a very trained veteran detective, the chief superintendent rank, and several other officers. And so they have marshaled their resources and are looking now at 11 separate files originating from various departments, various public operations and departments.
Greenslade said he was not surprised by some of the accusations that recently came to light, given information he had been receiving from members of the public. During his contribution to the budget debate, Minister of Works Desmond Bannister asked the Attorney General to consider whether legal action should be taken against members of the former Christie cabinet for abusing their legal authority. Greenslade says he's in a tough place.
I'm not surprised, based upon what I come to know by well-meaning citizens of the country as they speak. But you have to recognize that when things are just allegations and no formal complaints are made, the Commission is in a very difficult position, because I can't go off just in the dark, searching around, trying to manufacture things. You must have complainants in these matters. Someone must be aggrieved in these matters. A formal complaint is laid, and once that is done, then the law takes its course. There is due process, there's natural justice, and a commissioner follows the script of the law.
The unit's work will not be solely focused on the government's entities for long, according to the commissioner, who said complaints are now coming in from the private sector.
But there's a lot of work to be done, and I wish to tell you that that's going to my mind, possibly even move into the private sector, not just public and government, but even into the private sector.
Greenslade says he's proud of the anti-corruption unit for progress it has already made, and he is sure its mandate is clear.
The mandate of the unit is clear. I indicated earlier that they have already 11 files in their possessions that they're investigating. I receive reports on a daily basis, verbal and written, and I'm very satisfied that we're making good progress. We anticipate that we will be able to come back to the public real soon and to say some things more decisively in terms of what will happen with some of those investigations.
Reporting for R News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Well, the local Seventh-day Adventist Church is defending the integrity of the church organization after it was revealed that the Ministry of Education never paid the Adventist Church for the occupation, renovation, and construction at the site of the former Bahamas Academy on Wolf Road. Head of the Atlantic Caribbean Union, Pastor Leonard Johnson, declined an interview on the matter today. However, his office issued a statement noting that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is fairly satisfied with the information given to the media in the latest press release from the Minister of Education. On Sunday, Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd met with Pastors Paul Scavella, Peter Joseph, and C. Melvin Lewis of the South Bahamas Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, noting that despite having a lease agreement drawn up between the government and the church, the ministry had not signed the document after occupying the space for more than 2 years. In addition, the church had not been paid any rent money or any financial transactions related to the ministry's work on church land. According to the statement, although the church tried to assist the Ministry of Education in good faith, when it became apparent that the scope of work was being extended without consultation by the ministry, Pastor Scavella intervened to stop further work until the matter was regularized. Johnson told the Nassau Guardian that the agreement was for government to pay $5,000 per month or $60,000 annually for the lease. The Wolf Road site was selected as the PLP administration's pilot project to introduce institutions for students who were not performing well in the traditional school system. And the Democratic National Alliance isn't going anywhere anytime soon, according to the party's deputy leader, Chris Mortimer. Mortimer telling our Kyle Joaquin today that there's a lot of talk about the party's leadership and its future, but the party is still together and looking forward to 2022. Kyle?
We haven't heard much from Bramble McCartney or the DNA since May 10th, but today we spoke with the party's deputy leader who said they're still around, but just laying low for now. Simply observing. That's what DNA Deputy Leader Chris Mortimer said the party has been doing since its crushing defeat at the polls on May 10th. The party only managed to secure about half the number of votes it received in the 2012 general election. And since then, party officials have been off the radar until now.
We have been quiet, as we did the last time. It makes sense to speak to the issues that we believe are important. We're not going to speak to every issue because some issues are just nonsensical. But we also wanted to make sure that we gave the government adequate time to put in place some of the policies that they're talking about.
He said the party has also been doing some retooling and decision-making on the way forward. But with rumors swirling as to the future of the political organization and its leadership, Mortimer was definitive in saying that Bramble McCartney is still leader and he is still deputy leader, at least until the party's convention.
I can't speak to the issue of leadership in terms of Mr. McCartney. Mr. McCartney is still leader of the party. And I know he made some mention in the press with respect to his leadership and that it's up to the party. And it is up to the party. And we will make a determination as a party about what is the next chapter. And once we've done that, we will make sure that the Bahamian people know.
The DNA was formed in 2011 and played a big role in the 2012 election. But with the party having lost a lot of its traction, we asked Mortimer about the mood in the party and whether he feels people would still be interested in helping the organization move forward.
Nothing is built overnight. The DNA is only 6 years old. And so success for a party isn't going to come if you're not prepared to stand in there for the long term. You're always going to have misses. I mean, look at Dr. Dwayne Sands. How many times he tried before he got in?
A date for the party's convention has not yet been set. In the meantime, Mortimer says there is a government they must hold accountable and the goal of winning the next election.
We will accomplish the goal. And it may take 6 years or it may take till 2022. The fact of the matter is we're prepared to stick in there till 2022.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Still to come on our news, an F&M senator raises the alarm on storm repairs on Grand Bahama, plus Galleria Cinemas to shut down one of its locations this week. That's coming up when our news returns.